My name is Abel Prudhomme, and I'm the faith-based regional coordinator for what's known as Service Planning Area 6 here in Los Angeles County. Los Angeles County is as big as a nation, as many nations, really bigger than many nations. And so the county wisely divided it up into 8 different service planning areas. The service planning area that we are a part of is the one that I strongly believe and know God called me to strengthen and help the churches and other faith organizations in the inner city, and that is SPA 6, Service Planning Area 6, comprised of Compton, South LA, Lynwood, Paramount. You may have heard some of those cities and some of those movies that malign us, but we're down here loving our people and finding power in loving our people and finding power within our people as we work with them. So that's what's going on here today. We are in the faith-based regional coordination meeting. We're in the faith conference that takes place bi-monthly every second and fourth Wednesday of the month at 9:30 a.m. going to 10:30 or 10:45 a.m., which is going to go a little over. So folks, if you got to leave early, that's fine. Every second and fourth Wednesday of the month. Last time we met, though, we met at the second annual Faith Summit, which was huge at Fuller Theological Seminary. That was not a Wednesday, that was a Thursday. We were all together, many of us, had a blessed time. We just huge, over 300 different faith leaders. That was wonderful. And then the following week, which was last week, I found myself, by the grace of God, in Portland, Oregon, for the Christian Community Development Association's National Convention. I had a wonderful time, connected with many people there. I attended 4 different breakout sessions, got a chance to meet with 3 different consultants and many other folk in the huge exhibit hall. The 3 best I felt of them, I spoke with and invited them to come, and all 3 from their hearts said yes. And so they are here to be our guest speakers. I want to give you folks some community updates, if I may, just briefly. So here in Los Angeles County, formerly there was a welfare system. A lot of people know about welfare and welfare system. People just sitting on the welfare system and whatever they wanted to say about it. I was homeless back in the 80s and tried to get assistance from the welfare system. It took so long that I just gave up on it. But we have a new system that's been in place now and has been functional and has been helping tons of people, and it's called the Coordinated Entry System. Short, everybody likes to abbreviate in America. Y'all know how we are, CES system. So the Coordinated Entry System is comprised of various access centers. That's the focal point of helping people who need assistance. And it is based on, it is set up primarily to help people impacted, not just who are homeless and already on the street, like I was back in the 80s, sleeping on a sidewalk or something, but it's there to set up to assist people with other issues that lead to homelessness, such as human trafficking, domestic violence, reentry, just getting out of prison and trying to get reintroduced to society, and other social ills that plague us in our society these days. Rent problems and whatnot. So let's not get into it, but that's the idea. The access centers are throughout the county. In SPA 6, we have, I believe it's 8 access centers. I actually have a event folder set up and a resource folder set up online that is shared with the faith community. Almost everybody that's here live in the meeting with me today accesses this on a regular basis. Many of us, including myself, actually plan our calendar around the event folder. It's chronologically listed. We go and we check out what's going on for this week, for this month. I've gotten in the habit of setting it up for at the end of the month for the next month, and then I have to keep going back in, because you know how people do us. They send me stuff that's coming up like, hey, this is happening tomorrow. Hey, this is happening next week. So there's constant need to, go back and look again for new events as well. So, and I want to encourage people, please feel free to send me events and resources to share. But because we are dealing with the faith community, and because I try to give the faith community what they like and need, they prefer and are able to use better flyers. So I encourage you to send me PDFs, PNG, JPEG format. You say, what is that? If you're making flyers, you know what that is. Send your flyers to me in that proper format. I actually have somebody posting it up regularly for you. It's going to happen. Send me your flyers. I send them to him right away, and he gets them posted up into the folders for us. So that's what's happening with the event and resource folder. I will highlight one thing in that folder, and I was asked to highlight it. So on behalf of the United Way, who asked me to highlight this, there is a phone bank taking place where our faith leaders are asked to assist regarding Measure A. I'm not trying to sit here and endorse Measure A, and I don't believe that's my position to do so in this meeting. But Measure A happens to be, let's put it just real bluntly, Measure A is what's funding what we're doing right now. Measure A is what's funding navigation centers to be there so that back when I was homeless, I could have gone there and got a shower, could put my stuff up, would have been able to get fresh clothing, would have been able to talk to somebody to get housed, would have been able to do a whole lot of getting my laundry done. I would have, wow, that would have really helped me back in the day. So things like that, they're funded by that, and essentially will go away. Measure A is not voted in. That's just reality. HOPICS, I am based, that's all faith-based, and I'm sorry, I am one of 8 faith-based regional coordinators. I got SPA 6, we've got SPA 1 through 8. All of that goes away. All of that goes away. I'm based at HOPICS, which now is housing, clothing, feeding, and doing a whole lot for hundreds of people in our community. That will go away. So that's funding all of that. As I said, I'm not here to endorse it, but I am here to let you know what it's about. That's what's happening. United Way has, I'll have a link for you in the agenda that takes you straight to the phone bank outreach tool. It's the Measure A phone bank outreach toolkit. They asked me to mention it, and I have. I know they were trying to be here themselves to do, but they weren't able to because it was at the last minute when they contacted me. So that's how that goes. So upcoming events. There are 2 upcoming events. There's many upcoming events you'll find in the event folder, but 2 I will highlight. First of all, I'm going to highlight the second one and then the first. The second one is October 25th, and it is the HOPICS Homeless Connect Day. We shut down, if you guys were with us last year, 3 blocks long on Broadway, from Slauson to just north of Slauson on Broadway. Those 3 blocks, we shut them down. We had a big, giant, wonderful Connect Day. This one also will, of course, they always get bigger, be even bigger. Now you say, I'm about to let you know that they're in parking lots. You say parking lots? We have 3 blocks. These are 3 huge parking lots. Just trust, it is a huge event. Please come. Someone contacted me recently to ask me, hey Abel, how do I sign up to be a vendor? I'll put the link in for you here, but if you go to the event folder and just scroll down to October 25th, you'll see the information right there as well. Okay, and so the other event, which is coming sooner than that, and I saved it for last because it's very close to my heart. It is on October 12th, Saturday, that's this Saturday, October 12th, the Southeast Clergy Community Walk and Talk. The Los Angeles Police Department, I know, defund the police and all of that. But there is a part of the Los Angeles Police Department that is focused on working with the faith community. Now let me give it to you succinctly, okay? There is a red light district in South Los Angeles. What is a red light district? A red light district is where human trafficking takes place. There are children, girls, 12, 13, 14, 15 years old on up, practically in their underwear. Abel, don't be so blunt. It is that blunt. If you drive down Figueroa, you'll see it. I spent 6 hours on a Sunday and documented and created a database of every single faith center, every single church, and every single social service agency, as well as the 4 stores there that actually contribute to this problem, and documented them, and have begun to work with the Los Angeles Police Department's Clergy Council, and have begun to work with some of the churches in the area to jointly stop such a problem. Now stop and think, dear pastor. If you have a church in that area and you try to stop a criminal element, and that means you've now encountered the criminal element, and there might be some pushback from the criminal element. And I'm sure your imagination can take to where that might mean for your church and your people. That's why I believe it's so important to have the LAPD Clergy Council connected and involved in this work. Why did I give all of that? Because this Saturday, it's only 2 hours. There'll be a walk. I went with them last year in October, and we did a march through the street. We connected with the people on the street, gave out literature with the people on the street. The police were there. It's very safe. There's police vans and police cars that are on the street driving before and behind us as we go. There's police officers mingling with us. Now you say if that happens, of course, those people are not going to show up. We connected with the community. So to me, to be honest with you, and we connected with people. I actually had a person or two I stopped and talked to and had conversations with. But then we come back to the church, and this is going to be at Faithful St. Mark Church this time, and that church is co-pastored by Pastor G. Gentry Atkins IV, known as Pastor G. He might even be in the house with us today. I hope he is. We'll be at his church for a community gathering afterwards. So it's like it is a town hall meeting. It's a great meeting. It'll be a great chance to, let me slow it down, make sure you get it, connect with the social service agencies and churches that are in the midst of this struggle to prayerfully end human trafficking. Okay, I don't want to go on too much more on this. Talk to me in private and I can expand on this subject. I preached my first sermon on the street back in the 80s. I got saved 1980 by the grace of God, and I preached my first sermon in the early 80s on the Figueroa corridor, right there where the action was happening at. Me and some other brothers went down. Why am I bringing that up? What is that, 20 years? I'm still old, 40 years? And it's still going on. But the faith community can end it. As a pastor has said, the sleeping giant has been awakened and we are now entering into this struggle. Let's get back to it as I wrap this portion of the meeting up. Those are the community updates for you. Okay, we are definitely right at schedule, and we will now move on by the grace of God. So family, I want to share with you that today we have some wonderful guests who are blessing us to be here with us today. I'm very happy to have them with us here. You're going to hear from Adrienne Livingston. Hi, Adrienne. From Adrienne Livingston. She gave a wonderful presentation on grant writing, how to make sure that you get that approved. She'll give you the exact title when she comes on. She's here to speak to us. I know she's connected with People's Nonprofit Accelerator, because I looked that up, and a few other organizations. And then we're going to hear from MIndy Muller. Wonderful to have MIndy Muller here. She's the president and CEO of Community Development Professionals, also known as CDP, and they do great consulting work and extremely affordable, so affordable that actually I went ahead and signed up. I'm telling you. So you'll hear from her. They're really great consultants from the heart, wonderful people. She works in tangent actually with Stephen Muller, who actually is her husband. She works in tangent with him, with many other people, and have helped many people. So she's our second speaker today. And then lastly, wrapping it up will be Andrew Fiel. And Andrew, I'm so happy to have you here. Andrew is from Every Neighborhood Partnership. And I really hope he shares, especially, I took two different sessions with him, breakout sessions. One was on mapping. He's got great resources online for mapping your area. I think Joanne's going to really enjoy that especially, but even more so, there's the ABCD, and I'm going to grab the book, because yes, Andrew, he said to order it, and I always order things in class when people tell me that. I go on Amazon and put my order in. And when people care enough to act, it's all about the asset-based community development. It's a system. He'll tell you more. I don't want to steal his thunder. It's ABCD, asset-based community development. I really hope he'll speak on that. So without further ado, we're going to start with Adrienne. So Adrienne, again, is just really great. She's a fireball. She reminds me of my sister. I have a sister who's actually a life coach, who she reminded me of very much during her presentation. So I'm really excited to have you here today. Folks, please give Adrienne your heart's attention. Adrienne, you have the floor. Go ahead.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It is a delight and pleasure to be here. I actually also invited my business partner to come, and she'll share as well, Amina Anderson. So if you'll wave so people can see you, and I will go ahead and share my screen here. Awesome. Okay. So the session that I led at the CCDA was the fundamentals to writing competitive grant applications. And so in that, I shared a little bit about my background, because I think my background makes me unique in helping people to understand how they can strengthen their proposals. So I've been in the nonprofit industry for 25 years and serving as a grant reviewer. The organization I got started with was the Black United Fund of Oregon, and we did workplace giving And with the funds that we raised, we gave out into the community via grants. And so back in 1997 is when I started reviewing grants, and not only reviewing them, but making assessments and recommendations to whether they would be funded or not to the board. So I got started back then, and since then have served on several different reviewing committees. One was the Portland Children's Levy here in town. I'm in Oregon, so I'm glad that the CCDA was in my backyard and I got to meet some wonderful people. But that committee, we gave every 5 years $8 to $9 million, and I served on that committee for 7 years. And so from there, even currently, serving with one of our foundations, Oregon Community Foundation, as a grant consultant and managing their Nike Community Impact Fund and their Trailblazer Fund. So still serving in that capacity, and not just as a reviewer, but sometimes as a decision maker. The Portland Children's Levy and one of the funds with OCF, we are not only reviewing them, we are actually deciding who gets the funding and how much. Since I basically became a grant writer prior to, 2012, I would educate people how to write better grants. But in 2012, that's when I actually started writing grants, and since then have received over $500,000 in grant funding. What I, however, love to do even more than grant writing is editing. So at this point in helping individuals, I don't necessarily write the initial grant. I actually partner, and you'll hear from Amina, who writes the initial draft, and then I will edit. But I've also worked with people in their nonprofits and businesses, because I've helped both, where they have written the first draft and I have edited. And what I love about that is that you hear the voice of the person, of the organization, that is so much more authentic to me, in my opinion, than mine. However, if you do not have that, we still have support that we do provide to nonprofits. So in that, definitely as a grant consultant, grant coach, love coaching people as well, how to help them learn how to write grant applications and be stronger at it. It doesn't necessarily, sometimes it's just teaching someone. And then I'm also a voiceover actor. And so in the sense, I bring that up because I also have written grants for my own business. So I've done it both for nonprofits and for business. Abel was talking about the issue of trafficking. The ministry that I work in, I'm the director of anti-sex trafficking initiatives. So what he was saying is very true and very real. Outside of that, I like putting this picture up to give people hopefully a perspective that as a grant reviewer, the side that says all grant applications received, that's how I feel when I receive so many grant applications. The need is greater than we have to give. And we only have a certain amount that we can approve. And as you see from this big, large stack, here is the smaller amount of applications that are approved, which makes our job very hard, because there are several organizations out there doing great work, but we have to look at who are the most competitive grants, but still, as we're reviewing it, look at equity, look at access, all those things. We're not necessarily looking to have that professional grant writer, but are you answering the questions? But just to give people perspective that it's a challenging job at times, many times. And one thing is, when I was sharing at the conference, that I really was trying to emphasize is the framework of the SMART goals framework, married with the who, what, when, where, why, and how, to help share the story of what the nonprofit is doing. So under specific, I put, okay, what are those questions of the 5 W's and the H? So for example, what is the problem or issue being addressed? And really defining that. How are you going to address it? And really demonstrating under which category of the SMART goals do those who, what, when, where, why questions fall. So under measurable, what are your specific quantifiable goals, etc. I will continue just because I know we don't have much time. Now, when looking at a grant application, this is what a typical grant application is. Many times there are some limits, whether it's page limits, character limits, or word limits. And even within that, even if you say have a page limit of 5 pages that you can submit, if you can be clear, concise, and brief, and you're able to share your story compellingly, and it's very competitive, in 3 pages instead of 5, I say use 3 pages. You don't have to fill up the full 5 pages as long as you've told your full story. So what the components of the grant application are. We want to know your organizational background and really the specifics. What do you do? What are your programs? When were you founded? Do you have accomplishments that you would like us to know? What is the the issue community need? I like to say this is your problem statement, thinking of it as a business plan. And in that, you're really defining what the issue is before you're talking about what you do. You're helping me see, wow, what is the problem? So then the next thing you're going to do is come in and say, and this is who we are, and this is how we are going to address it. So that's within the project description and being very detailed. There have been times, for example, I've gotten applications and they say, we're going to have a summer program for youth that are at risk. But that's all they give. They don't say how long it is, the individuals that will be there during the day that will be teaching the youth. If it's youth from low income, are they feeding the youth? Not giving truly description. And what I like to say is, so for someone who is blind or low vision, there's something called audio description. And individuals like to be entertained themselves. Between the dialogue, whether it's a TV, film, or live theater, there is someone audio describing what's happening between the scene or between the dialogue so that individual can understand what's going on in the scene. That's what I like to think about when writing a grant application. Thinking, can you write so that the person reviewing can actually put themselves in the shoes of the participant, that they know what they will be experiencing? So really defining that. And then going to the measurable outcome, the impact. You have your outputs, the measurables, the numbers. That's easy to really quantify. It gets harder when you're talking about the outcomes. What are they going to receive because of that? And you can do hard, concrete outcomes to those quantifiable, those soft ones, even like building skill set, building confidence. But then from there, ultimately, we as funders want to know, what is the impact that you're making? And it can be to that primary population that you're targeting, to a secondary and tertiary audience.
You folks are seeing why I invited Adrienne. This is good stuff, including that there's, at one point, I remember you were saying to actually use their language when you give the proposal so that they can see, oh, that's exactly what we want. It sounds like the way I do resumes and get interviews when I'm job hunting. So Adrienne is going to be here with us. I want to bring on the other speaker, if I may. Adrienne is going to be with us in just a moment during that 10-minute Q&A session. So she'll be able to expand and answer questions as well. I just want to give MIndy a chance to come on, if I may, Adrienne.
Definitely. Thank you.
That's okay. So yeah. MIndy Muller, and I'm really excited to have Adrienne. I'm excited for Adrienne to give us, I'm sure she's dropped it in the chat so we can connect with her afterwards and build the ongoing relationship. That's the idea, for each speaker to give their 10-minute summary and for them to continue connecting with us. So bringing on MIndy Muller, MIndy was fantastic. I met MIndy at the exhibitor table. And when I saw what they were doing, to be honest with you, the next few days I kept thinking back on what they're doing. Oh man, this is really incredible. And which is why I made sure for myself to connect and then ask them to come. So MIndy is the president and CEO of CDP, as I mentioned earlier. And she actually is going to speak to us. I'm hoping she'll share with you. She shared with me on low-cost community development consultation. I know many of you are doing many things already. I know we got people in the house who are already doing consultation. You're already doing that in our community. But what I've learned, because I know a whole lot, y'all, but what I've learned is to still try to learn from others and bring others onto my team and onto my staff, shall we say, of those, not staff, my team of people that I connect with. And that's why I thought it important to have her here today. So MIndy, please, you have the floor. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. I'm going to piggyback on what Adrienne was talking about a little bit. Our tagline is really get organized, then get funded, so that you can be sustainable. And we work a lot with grassroots organizations to help them figure out how to keep their house and get their house in order, because you need that before you're going to be able to do all the things Adrienne's talking about with getting funded. And all the awesome resources that are available to help bring in the resources, there are some things you've got to have in order in your own organization, your own nonprofit house, to make sure that you are paying attention to keeping your organization afloat. And so we divide this, and that's what you're seeing here. And it's really just a way to bring some structure to nonprofit organizations. We hear a lot of great information, a lot of training, but sometimes it can get all muddled in our minds when we're just trying to do our thing, just trying to do our mission-directed work. And we like to bring some order to it so that as you start building your organization toward long-term sustainability and success, so you're around a long time serving, we just like to bring some order to the language of what it means to be a healthy nonprofit. So I'm just going to run through the 6 components so you have a background of what that means. The first one is really legalities and making sure that as a 501c3 that you're organizing your nonprofit well, that you're getting that status, that tax exempt status, that you're maintaining that to make sure that you are being compliant with all the things that you need to do as an organization. There's just paperwork to being in a nonprofit. And so making sure legalities encompasses all of those paper pieces. So it is things like making sure you have your business organized, that you have everything in writing, that you have good internal controls, meaning 2 or 3 eyes on all the papers, all the finances, making sure there's some good practice in place. And one of my mantras is if it's not in writing, it doesn't exist. If it is in writing, that's what we have to follow. And so that's just one of the key things we talk about with this component of the paperwork piece, the legalities. So I always encourage people to think about, do you have your house in order with the paper? Do you have everything in writing? Do you have things in your mind that you do as a matter of business, but other people can't see that? And to think about making sure you have everything out of your mind and onto paper so that your board can govern, so that your leadership team knows what it needs to do and how to do it, that your finance people, your bookkeeper, your accountants, the people that are managing the money can see and know what's happening. So legalities really involves all of those pieces of an organization. The second component of a healthy nonprofit is really about the board. 501c3s have to have governing boards. So we want to make sure as nonprofits that we're gathering the right team together, that we have the right people at the table, people that bring a variety of skills and experiences and really get the mission what it's about. So making sure we have good practice of identifying who the board needs to be, that we can gather the right team together. So how do we do that? And do we need some help in making sure we have the right team at the table? Board governance also includes knowing what we're supposed to be doing as governing board members. So outlining what the roles are, what the responsibilities are, making sure we have our board set up for success in knowing what their roles and responsibilities are. And then how do we make sure that they can govern well? Are we training them on how to do that? So having a good governing board is key to being able to be around for a long time. And so this is an area that we see a lot of grassroots organizations struggle to get their house in order in this way. And so if that's something that you're struggling with, get some help with how to do that well. We also talk in board governance about duties and making sure boards understand what they're supposed to be doing. And these are just 4 brief duties that are important. And I'll give you access to this slide deck if you're interested in that. But the first one is really duty of care, making sure you're present, you're showing up, you know what you're supposed to be doing as a board. Duty of loyalty, making sure that the organization is always a hat that you're wearing, that you are putting the best interest of the organization at heart. And that's something critical that we talk to boards about, because sometimes board members don't realize when they wear a lot of hats that loyalty to this organization is critical. And so duty of loyalty is important. Duty of compliance, board members need to make sure that the organization's complying with those grant funds that they're receiving. They know what the strings are. that the bylaws are being followed, that they're just doing all the things that an organization needs to do. That's duty of compliance. And then the last duty for a board is duty of managing accounts, just making sure they understand the finances and that there's good record keeping that's happening with that. The third component of a nonprofit is what we call image management. That is controlling how others view you. So it's all things related to public relations and marketing. So it's your branding and it's your social media and it's your email newsletters, and it's making sure that you have good sense of how our messaging is going out into the community. And that's an area that we see with a lot of grassroots organizations, and especially ministries struggle with this. We don't like to brag on what we're doing. And so we tend to not have consistent messaging or planning around how we get our message out. And so that's a critical piece, especially when we talk about looking at telling your story and making sure people understand your role and what it is that you do. So image management is really having a strategy and a plan for how are we going to get the word out about our organization. And then the fourth component of a healthy nonprofit is that of resource development. We've heard some of that today about the grant piece. That is a critical piece of making sure we have the right resources. But when we talk about resources, we include also in-kind contributions, which are services or products that are donated to your organization, as well as volunteers. Just making sure we're planning for what resources do we need and how are we going to get those. And with funding, we talk about certainly the grant landscape, but also donors that can contribute to you, individuals that would want to invest in your work, holding fundraising events and what that would look like to bring in resources for an organization. Also, contracts for service. Are there ways that you can contract with others to help deliver services to them? And then also social enterprise, which is an income revenue source within your organization that can help bring in funding. And so when we look at funding, we're looking at the broad scope of what do you need in terms of resources to do the work that you do. And so creating a resource development plan is what we encouraged nonprofits to do. The fifth component that we talk about with nonprofit development is that which we call strategic planning. And it's really just laying out in a plan where you're going, how you're going to get there, and how are you going to know you arrived. So we like it over a 3 to 5 year period just to make sure you're planning for where you're headed. So this would include all your programs that you want to do, the services you want to provide. How are we putting on paper? Again, my mantra, if it's not in writing, it doesn't exist. So how are we going to plan for where we're going? How do we want to grow? How do we want to expand our services in the community offerings that we have? And to do that in a way that everybody can see and be a part of. So that's really what strategic planning is. And then the last one is really program impact. And this is the heart of why we do what we do. It is the work that says, are we making a difference, and how do we know? What is the difference we're trying to make through the work that we're doing? And then how do we know we're moving the needle on things, or moving forward, or making that impact? So really trying to decide what it is that we're trying to accomplish. How are we going to define that? What are the activities we're going to do to make that happen? And then what are the benchmarks, or how are we going to measure our progress? How are we going to know that we're doing the things we need to do? And so the next steps, and I know this is like really brief. We have a 4.5 hour training on back to basics. So I was trying to give you just a capture in a quick second what the 6 components are, and just give you an introduction to that. But the next steps really in building up the get organized piece of your work is to assess, where are we? Are we paying attention to these different components? Where are we with things? And then how are we going to be able to accomplish some movement on any of these steps? And maybe the question or the next step is you reach out to Adrienne and say, hey, we've never explored grant funding. We would be interested in doing that. That can be a great next step. But after you sit in this meeting today and hear from all 3 of us and some other things that are going on in your community, what can you do as a result of this? How do you move forward over the next 30 days and move in some of these directions that you feel like would help benefit your organization? I put our website up there, and then our cost-effective way that Abel mentioned is for $40 a month, you can join CDP. We have a whole training academy. We have lots of resources online, but we have this membership is how we are able to offer these things cost-effectively. And it just helps you assess what you need, have some training at your fingertips. It's just on-demand training, help you build strategies around how do we want to move forward, and then give you some outlines for how to do the work moving forward. And so you have at our cdp.training site or on this QR code, if you're fancy like that and want to take a snapshot of that, you can do that. But we just try to make sure that our programs and our services and our coaching are accessible. Our goal is to really help grassroots ministries and organizations across the country. We want to see you thrive, because what you do in community is so critical and so important. And we know nonprofits are doing a lot of the heavy lifting in our communities. And so we want to provide a cost-effective way to help you do what you do for the long haul.
And that really works. That works for my budget.
Yeah. But thank you for the opportunity, Abel. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. And please stay with us, you and Adrienne, because there'll be a little bit at the end. And I by the way, I want to acknowledge a few people. I see Miss Betty. I'm so happy to have you in the house. Pastor Wright, so happy to have you in the house. I don't want to go through the list of everybody, but I haven't seen Miss Betty in my meeting for a while, so I'm so happy. Y'all got to know Miss Betty. If you're going to do any ministry in Compton, Long Beach, really South LA too, may as well be. You need to know Miss Betty. But let me stop. There'll be networking at the end. My brother, Andrew, I'm so happy to have you here with us. Andrew was handling it. He and his other two presenters. And notice I picked on you out of the three, my brother. So I'm happy to have you here. I'm hoping he mentions a certain reverend who's a part of our history, but I'm going to give him the floor with minding the time. Andrew, you got the floor. From every neighborhood, please share with us. Go ahead. Every neighborhood partnership. Go ahead. Executive Director Andrew Fiel. Go ahead, my brother.
Thank you, Pastor. So good to be with y'all. I've been a pastor at a church and been for the last 9 years, and then also running EMP for the last 9. So I understand the struggle's real. What I wanted to share really briefly, I'll just able to get us caught up, I'll go 5 minutes, is really a framework that helps you understand and begin to be about community change. There's a couple of tools I'll give you along the way, and then I'll also put a link in the chat if you all want to learn more, and also I'll just straight up share our slides that we went through during our breakout. Let me just go ahead and put this here in the chat. Just fill out this Google form. I'll send you those slides. My other presenters aren't here, but the work that we do in the city of Fresno for the last 15 years really comes from their ingenuity, their creativity. And really, I think as a believer, we have so much history and roots, like not only in America, but we also have so much history and roots in our faith. We have community developers like Nehemiah who went into the city, understood what was going on, allowed God to break his heart, got some data, got some information, walked around the city walls, talked to people, figured out who are the change makers, and then came up with a plan and executed on it. For us, and for many of you, this is roots in civic infrastructure. That's how we think about it. Spiritual infrastructure, civic infrastructure. You got people who paved the way. Pastor and activist James Lawson's like a perfect example of you can have a great heart, you can have a desire and a dream. Without a strategy, it doesn't accomplish much. And so what SNCC and the group that he helped form, and also with Court, like those movements institutionalized practices that moved people, right? I think we always got to think about that. What is our vision for changing a neighborhood? That's great. Pastors are great at vision, casting heart, but like, how do we go about it? What are tools and strategies? I will mention and share these resources as well, but asset-based community development is an organizing cycle. What I love for it is it really marries the faith, vision, and lens, because it starts with the premise that everybody has assets and gifts. For us as believers, everybody's made in the image of God, core values and gifts that they can use to change their neighborhood. Part of this strategy is really beginning to understand your place. understanding your context. What I did in one of the breakouts our team did is we shared some of the kind of data work you can do to understand your neighborhoods, right? There's some tools that you can use, like a census reporter, where you can break down and get what is the neighborhood around me that I'm trying to serve. What are the 3,000 to 5,000 people in that geographic area? What are they struggling with? How do I serve them? What are their issues? Same with great schools. That's a great resource that can help you understand the context of the local elementary, junior, and high school around you. We also shared a tool. This link and this data sheet template is available for free to y'all. We've created this where we give these to our pastors in Fresno, and we say, hey, did you know that at Columbia Elementary, this is what's going on in your neighborhood? Here is the racial, the economic, the social information that can help you understand who are your people. How do you be a better neighbor to those people? We've mapped that information. So this is a map of Fresno and that great schools rating. And we're trying to use this information to tell a story about how our city has strategically disinvested in areas of Fresno, what those ramifications look like, how you can use it. I can share with you how we try to map our assets in Fresno. These are all the churches. You see all the churches spread throughout Fresno. We're trying to understand what's going on. Where are the people of God? How do we link those up, right? Because we know that those are amazing assets. Let's see. I'll skip over a little bit, but just to say that in our own working out of asset-based community development, what we've seen is parents like Juana Edis there in the blue on the top picture. We've seen Juana move from a mom, just came over from Mexico, doesn't understand the English school system, but knows that she's got a little activist heart in her. She knows she wants to be about change, but doesn't know how to do that. Through a process of asset-based community development, we met Juana. We started to meet with her and her community. This is some of my little kids. You'll see them later. That's when they're babies. They're now not babies. We began to figure out, like, what are the things they care enough to do? We talked about issues. We figured out, there's actually street lights in our neighborhood where there's no intersections in our neighborhood. We need a intersection because these moms are coming across the street, traffic's flying 50 miles an hour. They do not feel safe to get across. So we began to gather residents at a local restaurant. We got together. We said, are you guys all having this issue too? Through a long process, this was not a short, quick process. We did some surveying. We did some conversations. We went to City Hall, advocated, and said, hey, city, care about our streets, care about our intersections. You see that street light there behind us. We actually have a street light now. 6 years in the process, meeting residents, helping them find their voice and their power, and seeing change. And Juana now works for a local nonprofit. She's an amazing leader. So a couple of resources, again, I'll put that link's in the chat. If you fill out that Google form, I'll send you the 2 slideshows we gave and our handouts. So it's all there for you. And then if you have any interest, we'll be doing some workshops here coming in the future online that are going to be a 4-part how to do asset-based community development. Each of those would be like an hour and a half, right? This was fly by, super quick. And I'll also drop my email there in the chat. But so glad to be with you all. I keep being about community change. We need the church to be central to what happens in transformation in our city. So glad to be joining you all.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Folks, just to summarize, and then I want to give them a chance to answer any questions you have. What you just encountered is three great resources. One on structure, planning, making sure that you got everything set up, making sure your ducks are in order legally with the 501(c) and plan for the future, your budget, all that structure. That's CDP, that's MIndy Muller. And then what you've got there, of course, is how to make sure. Now, a lot of us involved in doing our grants. This is help from Adrienne's side on making sure that your grant proposals are strong from someone who's reviewing. I don't know if you got a chance to mention it, but like thousands of grants for a very large funder who knows what she's talking about on what they're going to accept and what they're not, plus her other background. So you've got help in getting your grant proposals structured right. And then you've got help in, and I'll make it even clearer for my brother, the civil rights movement, okay? They had a method by which they brought down segregation and all of these issues, okay? So the ABCD is a structured method. The way they got that street light put in was through a standard structured method that is being duplicated by other communities across the United States of America right now to get their actual community changed. We got a system, and I'm going to be talking to some of you about this more as we go.
This is Tori. We have found some more grants too, so we want to make sure everybody's included, and we'll take it from there.
And Tori, make sure to send that my way. One of the favorite folders of the faith community in the resource folder is the grant folder up under that. So please send that, and I'll make sure that's there, and make sure I share it out.
Thank you, everyone.
Good? Yes, sir.
Thank you all.
Hopping off. God bless y'all. Appreciate you.